boys, I want to talk about Lightspeed bundles. Specifically, I want to talk about the Jedi Allies Lightspeed bundle. I think this might be the best Lightspeed bundle to come to the game. Now, I don't think the characters are the best, but I think the value that you get from it could potentially be the best. Now, I'm going to say the caveat of probably not better than the $10 Rey and SLKR bundles, really, but maybe. And I know you're thinking, that's crazy. This is 4 useless Jedi and 1 pretty meh Jedi. But this team has a lot of potential in the raid. Now, first off, if we look at the actual characters that come with the bundle in-game, well, we know that Luminara is getting a ton of buffs and spreading buffs between the team for her being a light side or Jedi healer in the leader slot. And in the raid, we don't really know what that damage is going to look like, so I don't want to weigh that too much and say, oh, she's going to be like the 3rd best team in the raid. I think she's still probably going to be a pretty subpar team. If you're curious, I actually think if you can, you're going to want to run her with Grandmaster Yoda and make sure you run Kit Fisto on that team because he'll help spread those buffs around and keep the buffs going, and you get bonuses based on your buffs. But that's kind of beside the point. I want to look at, if you just get these 5 characters, how much damage could we actually do in the raid? And then what does that translate to as far as Mark II, Mark III raid currency over the time period of the raid being present? Because this really is a long-term investment. You're taking the team, you're getting them to relics now, so that way you can use them over the next, let's say, 7 months or so while this raid is active. Well, how much is that actually boosting your score, boosting your guild score, and what is that translating into rewards for you? So what I did is I tried to figure that out with a spreadsheet. Now you're going to look at this spreadsheet and you're going to say, holy crap, this is a lot of numbers. What is going on? I'll walk you through it. This is every character that's available in the raid. What I did is I ranked them on values based on their viability, what I think is going to be their viability in the raid. We're looking at value of 5 is the highest, value of 1 is the lowest. So obviously down here we've got Jedi Knight Consular, or Jedi Knight Guardian and Jedi Consular, who are values 1. They're not going to do much. Ethkoth, Plo Koon, Kit Fisto, I valued all at 2. Qui-Gon, I said, is probably a little bit better at a value of 3. And because of Luminara's leadership and the buffs she's going to be spreading, I think she's probably a little bit higher than Qui-Gon at a value of 4. 5's reserved for some of the raid-specific characters, and I'll make a copy of the spreadsheet and put a link to it in the description if you're nerdy like me and want to take a look at what I presume to be the numbers of everybody is going to be doing. These numbers could be wildly off, and I'll be the first to admit it, and I'll show you how I came up with these numbers because you'll probably see some errors in my logic and see why I think they're probably a little off at least. What I assumed is that in order to get this max raid score, max personal score, which is 19,440,000, you would have to have every character at Relic 9. Then what I did is I said the characters that are value 4 are probably about 40% better than the characters in value 3 or in value 4. The characters in value 5 are about 40% better than the characters in value 4. The characters in value 4 are about 40% better than the ones in 3. And so on and so forth until we get to 1. Then what I did is I looked at the number of characters, split the damage, and basically said, how much do I think each of these characters is going to do at Relic 9 in order to get you to the 19 million max crate, or max personal rewards? You can see why this is flawed, because I don't think CG is going to require us to have every character at Relic 9 in order to hit the max crate. I say that, the game's broken all the time, things don't work all the time, so it very well could be that you can't even hit the max crate even with every character at Relic 9. But let's work on the assumption that you can, because all we're doing is assuming at this point. So what I did is I basically scaled back the damage from Relic 9. I said for each tier you go down that you're going to lose 20% damage. So we went down, scaled them back to Relic 5, and we said that Luminara, Qui-Gon, Luminara, Qui-Gon, Ethkoth, Plo Koon, and Kit Fisto will net you a little over 1 million damage into the raid, per raid. Okay. Now you know how I came up with the number of how much damage they're going to be doing, and what gives me a little bit more confidence in this, actually, is looking at these Relic 3 requirements and looking at some of these 2 and 3 tier characters. I think 2 and 3 tier is where I would rank most of the Ewoks, and 100,000 to 150,000 per Ewok for the speeder bike raid is about what I'm getting from the Lightspeed bundles for the Ewoks. And so that's why I kind of was comfortable with this math, is because I think it got us to a pretty reasonable spot for the last bundle that we had that was relevant to this. Now, obviously some Ewoks are better than others, and this raid has less characters, so they might actually do more damage per relic level, but I can't assume too much, and I would rather err on the side of underestimating their damage than overestimating it. So that is how we get to the about million damage that you're going to be putting up in the raid with these characters. Now, if we assume about 40 people in your guild get this pack, then we're assuming your raid damage is going to be around 43 million, almost 44. Doesn't really matter because we're going to put you at the 36 million crate. Now, if you're buying this bundle, I really think you can leverage it and get into a guild that is getting up to the 108. I'm not going to assume that here because that is a bit of a stretch to go from 44 up to 108. Even if we say that this team's going to put up more damage, it's difficult to say that we're pushing all the way to 108. So let's just assume we're sticking at the 36 million crate. Then if we look at personal rewards, we're getting up to the 800,000 personal rewards, which means you're getting a total of 700 Mark II raid currency and a total of 280 Mark III raid currency. Add that in addition to the, I'm going to assume, additional 500 you'd get from this. I'm basically saying that without this bundle, your guild would be able to get the 23 million crate, and that you're only getting an additional 500. If you're going from getting 500 to 1,500, this bundle only gets better because you're getting an additional 1,000 Mark III as opposed to an additional 500 Mark III. I'm also not even considering the additional Mark II that you're getting here from going from 23 to 36. So if we also include that, we're looking at an additional, what is that, 9,700 minus the 8,400. So we're an additional 1,300 Mark II raid currency per raid. If I add that in here real quick, you'll see 2,000. Our total value over the course of this raid, spoiler alert, is going from 393. Oh, that's 200. 393 to $490. So if we calculate that in there, which I'm not going to make the assumption that this pack alone is forcing your guild over this threshold. Well, I mean, I guess I am because I am calculating here, but I'm not even including the value that you're getting for this jump. That 1,300, that's a significant jump in Mark II raid currency, especially when we consider that you're running this raid probably 30 times. Now, this is a low-end estimate. I'm assuming you're running the raid every 7 days, which you can run it every 6 if you have full guild participation, and I'm assuming that we only run it 30 times. 30 times is equivalent to, we're saying 30 weeks, which is about 7 months. The raid is likely to be around slightly longer than 7 months, since this one's already been around about 7 months. It looks like it's going to be probably total 8 months for the speeder bike. Plus, if we calculate that you're running a little more than 7 times, again, I'm really lowballing the numbers here. So, total Mark II raid currency, if you're getting 700 extra per raid, and total Mark III, if you're getting extra 780, is 21,000 Mark II raid currency and 23,400 Mark III raid currency. If we look at those values in crystals, basically what I did is I said, how much is a Mark II raid currency and a Mark III raid currency worth in crystals? If you're curious how we came up with those, that's down here. Basically, Zimbital cards and Electrium conductors are what we used, and we said these are the best things you can buy with Mark III raid currency. If you don't know the logic on that, it's the best value that you can get is Zimbital cards and Electrium conductors. So we're saying the average value of those is 112 per Mark III raid currency. And because it's 125 per Zimbital card, 100 per Electrium conductor, 112.5 is our average cost. Those cost 140 and 115 crystals per, which is an average of 127. So we're saying that a Mark III, if we do 127.5 divided by 112.5, we get to this equivalent Mark III raid cost of 1.13. We did the same thing for the Mark II raid currency, except for we just looked at Gear 12 salvage. We looked at a few different pieces and basically just averaged those 4 pieces and said, what is the equivalent cost? Converting that into crystal to dollars from crystal treasuries. That's the $100 packs, the most efficient way to get crystals. We're saying that is a total cost of $213.04 from the raid currency you're getting, additional from these characters. If we add in Calvin Awesome did a video calculating the Kairos and the signal data cost. That's $180.60. If we add those together, that's giving us that $393.64. And again, if we add in that raid currency, the Mark II raid currency from going from the 23 to the 36 million crate, that's taking you up to almost $500 in value. Now, this is going to be flexible because you may have your Gungan's Relic. You may have Queen Amidala Relic, and it may be taking you from the 36 to the 108, or from the 125 to the 144 crate for your guild, or it may be taking your personal rewards from the 800,000 to the 1.6 million, or from the 1.6 million to the 2.7 million. Again, it's very flexible, but even with just these small number of increases, if it's getting you just one personal raid reward better, or one guild currency reward better, or guild crate reward better, that value adds up a ton when you think about that we're doing this raid for the next 7 months. That's a lot of time in this game, and that's a lot of salvage, signal data, salvage relic materials that you can be getting from the raid by purchasing this pack. Now again, I'm not going to flack anybody that says, hey, I don't want these characters, I don't think the value's there. By all means, go for it. But I'm just saying, I've seen a lot of people complaining, saying the value on this is not there. And I'm telling you, the value is there if you sit down and do the math on it. $400 for worth of value for $20 is way better than most of the other Lightspeed bundles we've seen so far. Again, these numbers that I used could be totally off. So if you buy the back and then we get to the raid and this team does like 200,000 damage total, don't come yelling to me and saying, Matt, you told me to buy it and it's terrible value. Obviously, if you can't afford it, don't buy it. This is a mobile game after all. You probably really don't want to spend your money on it. But if you're going to be buying Lightspeed bundles, don't skip out on this one because you think the value is not there, because the value is there. Anyways, I'm going to get off my soapbox, stop ranting. I appreciate and love you guys. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Link to this spreadsheet in the description. Take care and peace.